Kala had never seen the sky so blue as it was that morning. She woke up with the sun still low, painting the red rocks of the valley with shades of gold and orange. At 23 summers, or at least that's what she counted by the season since she was born, Kala was already considered one of the best hunters in her clan. Her dark, disheveled hair fell over her muscular shoulders, marked by scars from long hunts. She wore deer hides tied with dried tendons, and always carried her favorite spear, the one with the flint tip that she herself had chipped over 3 full moons until it was perfect. Kala's clan lived in the caves at the foot of the Great Grey Mountain, a place their ancestors had chosen countless generations ago. There, the caves were deep and dry, protecting them from the biting winter wind and the large predators that roamed the plains. That morning, Kala had an important mission. Winter was approaching, and the clan needed to stockpile dried meat. 2 days earlier, she had spotted a small herd of wild horses grazing near the river of Singing Waters. If she could kill even one, it would be food for many days. Kala had been following the horses' tracks for almost half a day. The sun was already high, and sweat dripped down her forehead, mingling with the ochre paint she used to mask her scent. She had learned this trick from her father, Old Torek, before he departed for the land of the ancestors after being wounded by a cave bear. The tracks led her to a wide clearing, surrounded by low trees and thorny bushes. Perfect. If the horses were there, she could approach by crawling through the bushes unseen. That's when she heard a buzzing sound. It wasn't like the buzzing of bees she knew, nor the sound of the large beetles that flew heavily among the flowers in summer. It was different. Higher pitched. More strange. Kala froze, all her senses on high alert. Her dark eyes scanned the sky, searching for the source of the sound. For a moment, she saw nothing but white clouds slowly gliding across the endless blue. Then she saw him. A creature flew above the trees. It was small, smaller than a crow, but it didn't flap its wings. It simply floated and spun. And that irritating buzzing sound came from it. Kala felt her heart race. In all her years of hunting, in all the stories the elders told around the fire, she had never heard of a creature like this. The creature had a strange body, hard as stone, but as shiny as water in the sun. For thin arms extended from its body, and at each end there was something that spun so fast that Kala could barely see it. It was as if the creature had small whirlwinds of wind trapped inside it. The flying creature began to descend, drawing ever closer to the clearing. Kala crouched behind a large bush, watching with a mixture of fear and fascination. Is it dangerous? She thought that it looks too small to attack, but what if it has venom? Or hidden claws? She gripped her spear tighter, prepared to defend herself if necessary. The creature floated until it was right in the center of the clearing, just a few trees away from where Kala was hiding. Now that it was closer, she could see better. The creature had one large, round eye, black as night, fixed on its forehead. It didn't blink. It just stared. Perhaps it's some kind of sick bird, thought Kala. Or a forest spirit. But it didn't seem like a spirit. The spirits that the clan's shaman, Old Nima, described were ethereal, made of mist and light. This was solid. Real. Strange, but real. Suddenly, the creature moved toward him. Kala stifled a scream, shrinking even further against the ground. Her instinct screamed at her to run, but she had learned since childhood that predators chase what runs. So she stood still, breathing slowly, praying to her ancestors that that thing hadn't seen her. The creature stopped in midair, high above the bush where she was hiding. The buzzing grew louder, echoing in her ears. She could feel a light breeze coming from those swirling eddies. And then, the creature's eye moved. It spun, focusing straight down, as if searching for something. He's hunting me. That's it, Kala realized with growing horror. The instinct for survival overcame fear. If that creature was hunting her, she wouldn't be easy prey. With a war cry that echoed through the forest, Kala leaped from her hiding place, spear raised. The flying beast retreated swiftly, soaring into the air with surprising agility. "Come!" Kala shouted in her ancient tongue, taunting the creature. "If you want to fight, let's fight." She hurled her spear with all her might. The weapon spun in the air, perfect in its flight, but the beast dodged at the last second. The spear passed right by where it stood and fell to the ground, too far away for her to retrieve it quickly. The creature made a strange movement. It leaned from side to side, as if it were observing her, studying her. Kala picked up a large rock from the ground and threw it. She missed. She picked up another. She missed again. The creature was too fast, dancing in the air with movements that defied everything she knew about flying creatures. Frustrated, she ran towards her spear. The beast followed her, keeping a safe distance, always above her, always watching with that huge, black eye. When Kala retrieved her spear, she turned quickly, expecting to see the creature descend to attack. But no. It merely floated there, about 4 men's height above the ground, watching. That's when Kala noticed something peculiar. Every now and then, the creature blinked. Not with eyelids, but with a light. A small red light on its body flickered on and off, like a beating heart. He is alive. Yes, she confirmed to herself that it's not a stone. It's not a spirit. It's a creature. A very, very strange creature. After several minutes of stalemate, Kala on the ground with her spear, the beast in the air with its whirlwinds, something changed. Kala's curiosity began to overcome her fear. She had hunted wolves and bears. She had faced a wounded cave lion once, when she was only 16. But this was different. It didn't seem aggressive. Just curious. Slowly, Kala lowered her spear, but kept it firmly in her hand. She took a step back, observing the creature. It floated slightly forward, maintaining the same distance. She took another step back. The creature lunged forward again. "Are you following me?" she realized. Kala stopped moving and became completely still. The creature also stopped, floating in the same spot, its constant buzzing now sounding almost reassuring. Then she had an idea. Slowly, very slowly, Kala raised a hand, keeping her palm open toward the creature. It was a gesture of peace that she had seen work with frightened animals before. The creature didn't react at first. Then, slowly, it began to descend. Little by little, getting closer to the ground, getting closer to Kala. Her heart pounded in her chest. Every fiber of her being screamed that this was a bad idea, that she should run, but she stood firm. She trusted her instincts. The creature descended until it was at face level, less than 2 steps away. Now she could see it in detail. The shiny surface, smooth as black ice. The thin arms with swirls at the tips. And that immense eye, black as a starless night, reflecting her own image back to her. And then, something unbelievable happened. The eye blinked, not the red light, but something inside the black eye. A quick, white light, like a distant lightning bolt. Kala jumped back, startled. The creature retreated as well, rising rapidly into the air. For a long moment, they remained like that, woman and unknown creature, studying each other across the distance. The sun was beginning to set on the horizon when Kala finally decided to return to the caves. The horses had fled long ago, frightened by all the commotion. She would return empty-handed, but with an unbelievable story. The animal followed her all the way back. At first, Kala was tense, constantly looking back to see if that thing was still there. And it was. Always a few steps above the trees, always keeping the same distance, always buzzing that strange sound. After a while, she started to get used to it. She even started talking to him. "You're a very strange creature, you know," she said, looking up as she walked along a narrow path between the rocks. "I've never seen anything like you. Maybe you really are a spirit. A new spirit that the ancestors sent to what? Protect me. Watch over me." The creature didn't answer, of course. It just kept following, faithful as a dog. When Kala spotted her clan's caves in the distance, she stopped. She looked up at the creature. "If you go in there, my people will be afraid," she said. "They'll want to kill you. Some of them are skilled with spears. You should leave." As if it understood, the creature began to rise higher, moving away. But it didn't go away completely. It remained there, high in the sky, a dark spot against the increasingly dark blue of the late afternoon. Kala shook her head in disbelief and continued on her way. When Kala entered the main cave, she was greeted by her mother, Asha, a strong woman with gray hair and sharp eyes. "Where's the game?" Asha asked, looking at her daughter's empty hands. "The horses ran away," Kala replied. "But Mom, I saw something. Something unbelievable." Soon, half the clan was gathered around the central campfire, listening to Kala tell about the flying creature. The children listened with wide eyes. The men exchanged skeptical glances. The women whispered amongst themselves. The clan leader, Grok, an immense man with a thick beard and burn marks on his left arm, raised his hand for silence. "You saw a spirit," he said, his deep voice echoing in the cave. "A guardian spirit, perhaps. Or a demon. The shaman must decide." All eyes turned to Nima, the clan's old shaman. She sat in her favorite corner, near the wall where ancient images of animals had been painted by long-forgotten ancestors. Her eyes, milky with age, could still see beyond what ordinary eyes could see. "Take me outside," Nima said in her hoarse voice. "Let me see this creature." With the help of Kala and 2 other women, Nima was led out of the cave. Night had already fallen, and the stars were beginning to appear in the dark sky. "Where is he?" Nima asked. Kala looked up, searching. For a moment, she saw nothing. Then, high above, she saw 2 small lights, one red, one green, blinking rhythmically. "There," she pointed. "Do you see those lights?" Nima tilted her head, and somehow, despite her poor eyesight, seemed to be able to see what Kala was pointing at. "Ah," murmured the shaman. "Interesting. Is it a demon?" one of the women asked nervously. "No," Nima said confidently. "Demons don't have hearts. This creature does. I see it pulsing. Red and green, red and green. Like a beating heart. So it's a good spirit?" Kala asked hopefully. Nima remained silent for a long time, gazing at the sky. Then she said something no one expected. "It's not a spirit. It's not a demon. It's something else. Something that has no name in our language. Something that doesn't come from the earth, nor the water, nor the air. It comes from farther away. Further." Kala frowned. "Further than what?" Nima smiled, an enigmatic and sad smile. "Further than we can comprehend, child. But it will do us no harm. He came to observe. Let him observe." Nima was right. The flying creature didn't harm anyone. During the following days, he became a constant presence around the clan. He would appear early in the morning, when the hunters went out to hunt. He would float above the clearing where the children played. He would watch as the women worked the hides and prepared the food. The children were the first to lose their fear. They started playing with it, throwing small stones that the creature always managed to dodge. They laughed when it made those strange movements, leaning from side to side. One of the boys, Little Talk, just 6 years old, started calling him Zoom Zoom because of the sound he made. "Look, Zoom Zoom is dancing!" Talk shouted, jumping and waving at the creature. Kala watched everything with a mixture of joy and concern. She had been the first to find Zoom Zoom. In a way, she felt responsible for him. One afternoon, while Kala was braiding fibers to make a new rope, Zoom Zoom came down very close to her, closer than he had been since that first encounter in the clearing. "Hi, Zoom Zoom," she said softly, without lifting her eyes from her work. "What do you want today?" The creature floated there, watching her work. Kala could see her reflection in the creature's glistening body, herself, sitting cross-legged, nimble fingers working the fibers, hair falling over her concentrated face. "You watch us every day," she continued, still working. "But why? What are we to you?" "Just strange creatures, I suppose. Like you are to us." Zoom Zoom's dark eye gleamed, that quick white flash Kala had seen before. She smiled. "Are you listening to me? Do you understand what I'm saying?" she asked. Another flash. Kala laughed, genuinely amused. Perhaps he does understand. Perhaps he's smarter than he seems. It was Grok who had the idea. "If this Zoom Zoom is watching us," he said during a hunter's meeting, "then perhaps he can help us. He sees from above. He might find the prey before we do." The hunters discussed the idea. Some thought it was madness to trust such a strange creature. Others, including Kala, thought it was worth a try. The next day, when Kala and 3 other hunters set out before dawn, Zoom Zoom was waiting for them. As soon as they left the cave, he appeared, floating silently in the still dark morning air. Kala looked up. "Zoom Zoom," she called. "Let's go hunting. Can you help? Can you look for?" She gestured broadly with her arms. "Look for big animals. Deer. Horses." Zoom Zoom soared high into the sky, so high that it almost disappeared from sight. The hunters waited, tense. Then Zoom Zoom sped down, stopping in front of Kala. He leaned, that strange sideways movement, toward the river. "He wants us to follow," Kala said, surprised. "How do you know?" asked one of the hunters. "I know," Kala said simply, and began to follow in the direction Zoom Zoom had indicated. It took almost 2 hours of walking, but Zoom Zoom guided them perfectly. Near the river, exactly where the creature had indicated, they found a small herd of deer resting near the water. The hunt was successful. They killed 2 deer, enough meat to feed the clan for several days. As they were returning, carrying the game, Kala looked up at Zoom Zoom. "Thank you," she said. "You're a good friend." Zoom Zoom's eye blinked that white flash. And if Kala didn't know it was impossible, she would swear the creature was happy. Kala wanted to repay Zoom Zoom's help, but how do you give a gift to a strange flying creature that doesn't eat, doesn't drink, and doesn't sleep? She thought about it for days, watching Zoom Zoom as he floated around the camp. What did he like? What made him happy? Then she realized, colors. Zoom Zoom always came closer when there were colors around. When the wildflowers bloomed. When the colorful birds flew. When the sunset painted the sky orange and pink. Kala had an idea. She spent 3 days working in secret, in a hidden corner of the cave. She used paints she made herself, red from ochre, white from burnt bones, yellow from a certain clay, black from charcoal. And he painted. He painted on a large, flat stone that she had dragged to a clearing. He painted Zoom Zoom. He painted him floating over the mountains, over the river, over the clan. He painted with all the care and love he possessed. When she finished, she called Zoom Zoom. "Come and see," she shouted, waving. Zoom Zoom descended, approaching the painted stone. He remained there, floating, his dark eye fixed on the image. For a long time, nothing happened. Then, something extraordinary happened. Zoom Zoom began to spin. He spun in the air, once, twice, 3 times, as if he were dancing. The lights on his body, the red and the green, blinked frantically, joyfully. Kala laughed, a loud and happy laugh that echoed through the forest. "You liked it," she exclaimed, clapping her hands. The whole clan came to see. They saw the painting. They saw Zoom Zoom dancing in the air. And, for the first time, everyone understood, that strange creature was not an enemy. It was a friend. That night, around the campfire, Nima told a new story. A story about Kala and the flying beast. A story that would be told and retold for generations, passed down from grandfather to grandson, until it became a legend. But all stories come to an end, and this one would be no different. One morning, weeks after their first meeting, Kala woke up feeling that something was different. She couldn't explain what. It was just a feeling in her chest, a tightness in her heart. She left the cave and searched for Zoom Zoom. She didn't find him. All day long, she waited. Zoom Zoom always appeared. Always. But not that day. In the afternoon, as the sun began to set, Kala climbed to the highest point of the rock surrounding the cave. She stood there, gazing at the horizon, searching. And then she saw him. Zoom Zoom was flying by, but he wasn't alone. There were others. Many others. Dozens of them, perhaps, flying together like a flock of birds, buzzing in unison, a strange and beautiful symphony. Zoom Zoom separated himself from the group and descended to Kala. He stayed there, floating in front of her, closer than he had ever been before. Kala reached out her hand slowly, carefully. Zoom Zoom moved even closer. And then, she touched him. The surface was cold, smooth, hard as stone but soft as ice. She felt a gentle vibration beneath her fingers, the creature's heart, beating. "You're leaving," she said, not as a question, but as a statement of fact. Zoom Zoom's eye flashed that white light. Once. Twice. 3 times. "I understand," Kala said, fighting back tears that threatened to fall. "You have to go. You have to go back to where you came from. To your friends. Your family." Another flash. Kala smiled, even with tears in her eyes. "You've been a good friend, Zoom Zoom. Thank you. For everything. For scaring me at first," she laughed lightly, "for helping me hunt. For playing with the children. For being you." Zoom Zoom retreated slowly into the air. Then he made that sideways tilting motion one last time, as if he were bowing. And it began to rise. Kala watched him rise higher and higher, joining the flock of other flying creatures. Together, they formed a strange and beautiful formation, and began to fly toward the setting sun. The entire clan had emerged from the caves and watched in silence. The children waved. The adults remained quiet, respectful. Little Talk, who had given Zoom Zoom her name, ran to Kala and held her hand. "Is he coming back?" asked the boy, his voice small and hopeful. Kala shook his hand. "I don't know, Talk. Maybe. Maybe not. But we'll never forget him." They stayed there until the last dark spots disappeared on the horizon, until the buzzing turned to silence, until the stars began to appear in the sky. Years later, when Kala already had gray hair and a daughter of her own, she still told the story of the flying creature. She would tell her daughter, who would tell her own daughter, and so on. The painted stone that Kala had made was still in the clearing, protected and cared for by the clan. It had become a sacred place, where people went when they needed courage, when they needed to remember that the world was bigger and more mysterious than they could comprehend. Nima, the old shaman, had departed for the land of the ancestors, but before leaving, she said something to Kala. The flying beast was a messenger. Not from the gods, not from the spirits, but from something beyond. It came to show us that we are not alone. That beyond the mountains, beyond the rivers, beyond even the sky we see, there is more. There is always more. Kala carried those words with her for the rest of her life. And sometimes, on clear nights, when she looked at the stars, she thought of Zoom Zoom. She thought of him floating somewhere far away, watching other strange creatures, making other unlikely friends. And she smiled. Because she knew something her ancestors never knew, something her descendants would need to learn. The universe was vast, mysterious, and full of wonders. And if you were brave enough, curious enough, kind enough, wonders would come to you.